It was a quiet night on Earth, the skies clear, the cities glowing with their usual lights. People were busy with their own lives, never guessing that tonight something would change their world forever. High above the planet, far beyond the clouds, something unusual entered the solar system. It was not a meteor, not a satellite, and not a human-made craft. It was a massive alien ship, silver and black. Shining with strange energy, it moved silently. Yet every radar on Earth detected it at the same time. Panic spread across control rooms and military bases. Scientists rushed to study the readings. Generals shouted orders. News stations flashed with urgent alerts. Unidentified object entering Earth's orbit. The world held its breath. The alien ship did not attack. It did not fire weapons or destroy satellites. Instead, it slowed down and then it stopped above the blue planet. Its shape was beautiful but terrifying, with tall spires, glowing lines, and a crown-like structure at the top. It looked less like a warship and more like a throne floating in space. Inside, the crew of the ship prepared something important. At the heart of the vessel sat the one they all served. The Empress. She was no ordinary ruler. Her presence was commanding. Her beauty was unlike anything human eyes had seen. Yet her body looked weak, her golden eyes dim, her voice faint. She whispered to her closest guard, "It is time. Send the message to the humans." On Earth, scientists froze when their machines picked up a strange broadcast. It was not in any known language, yet somehow everyone understood it. The voice was soft but powerful, calm but commanding. It spoke directly to the minds of humanity. "I am the Empress of the stars. I have come not to conquer but to seek. My power is sealed. My enemies circle like wolves. To survive, I need a human. Only one can awaken what sleeps within me." The world reacted with shock. Governments argued. Military leaders prepared defenses. Some thought it was a trap. Some believed it was a chance for peace. But no one could ignore the voice of the Empress. News spread like fire across cities, villages, and deserts. People talked about the alien queen who needed a human. Who would she choose? Why a human and not one of her own kind? Was this the beginning of friendship or the start of the end? Meanwhile, the Empress sat on her throne of silver light. Her body was fragile, her power locked inside. She closed her eyes and whispered again, "The human will come. The bond will awaken me." On the other side of the world, a young man walked home under the night sky. He had no idea that his life was about to change. He was no soldier, no famous leader, just an ordinary human. But fate was already moving around him. Unseen above Earth, the alien ship glowed brighter. A beam of light reached down through the atmosphere, piercing the sky like a sword. People ran outside, pointing at the strange light. Phones captured videos, and social media exploded with fear and wonder. Then the message came again, louder, stronger, echoing in every human mind. "One of you must come. One of you must touch the heart of the Empress. One of you holds the key to the survival of my empire, and perhaps your own." The night grew heavy with silence. Humanity stood at the edge of something new. For the first time in history, the universe was not just out there. It was here, calling them, choosing them. The government struggled to decide, but the Empress was not waiting for their answer. Her ship began to scan the planet, searching, looking, reaching into the souls of billions, searching for the one who carried the spark she needed. And then somewhere in the quiet streets of a human city, the young man stopped walking. He felt something strange. Like a hand brushing against his mind, he looked up at the sky, and his heart began to race far above. The Empress opened her glowing eyes. A faint smile touched her lips. She had found him. The world did not know it yet. But the story of humanity and the Empress of the Stars had just begun. The young man's name was Daniel. He lived an ordinary life, working small jobs, walking home through quiet streets, never imagining that his path would connect with something greater than the world itself. But on that night, when the alien ship hovered above the Earth like a silent crown, everything changed. Daniel felt it first as a whisper inside his head. It was not a sound, but a feeling, soft yet powerful, like a warm light pulling him forward. He stopped in the middle of the road, staring at the beam of light that stretched down from the alien vessel. His heart pounded. His skin burned with an energy he had never known. "Why me?" he whispered. But there was no answer. Only the deep sense that something far beyond human understanding had chosen him. Around the world, people gathered near screens, watching the massive ship in the sky. Governments scrambled, scientists argued. Soldiers stood ready, and then a new message came from the alien Empress. Her voice flowed into every mind once more. The one I seek has been touched. He will know it. He will feel it. The choice is made. The streets around Daniel erupted in confusion as neighbors noticed the glowing light falling on him. Phones recorded, people shouted, some screamed in fear, others in wonder. Within moments, soldiers and agents rushed to the scene, surrounding him with weapons. "Stay where you are," one of them ordered. But the ground beneath Daniel trembled. The beam of light widened, wrapping around him like a cocoon. In seconds, his body lifted off the earth. Pulled upward by the alien ship, he reached out, frightened yet strangely calm. As the world below grew smaller inside the ship, the hallways were made of silver metal and glowing crystal. Alien symbols lined the walls, whispering with energy. Daniel floated gently onto the polished floor, gasping for breath. Around him stood tall armored figures, guards of the Empress. Their eyes glowed, their movements sharp and disciplined. One of them stepped forward, lowering his weapon. "The human has arrived," the guard said, his voice deep and echoing. The chamber doors opened, and Daniel's eyes widened. At the center of a throne made of light and shadow sat the alien Empress. Her skin was pale silver, her hair like flowing strands of starlight. Her golden eyes shimmered with both strength and sadness. She looked at him not as a prisoner, but as something far more important. Daniel froze, unsure of what to do. He wanted to run, to ask questions, but his feet refused to move. The Empress raised her hand gently, and her voice filled the chamber. "Do not fear, human," she said. "I called for you, because only you can awaken me." Daniel swallowed hard. "Why me? I'm not special, I'm just normal." Her golden eyes glowed brighter. "You are not normal. You are human. That alone makes you different from all I have ever ruled. My people are strong, intelligent, and disciplined. But we lack something only your kind carries: connection, empathy, the power of touch." Her words hung heavy in the air. Daniel shook his head. "You brought me all the way here because of touch?" The Empress leaned forward, her body trembling. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Without your touch, my power will never return. Without your bond, my empire will fall, and if my empire falls, the predators who hunt me will come for your earth next." Daniel felt his chest tighten. The weight of her words was too much. He had never thought of himself as a hero, never believed the universe would one day rest on his shoulders. Yet now the fate of two worlds seemed tied to his choice. One of the guards stepped closer, glaring. "If he fails, Empress, he will die. And so will you." The Empress raised her hand sharply, silencing the guard. Her gaze never left Daniel. "You do not have to trust me yet, but walk with me, see what I face, and then decide if you will help, slowly." Daniel nodded, his legs shook, but he stepped forward. Drawn to her like a moth to fire, he felt the strange energy again, pulling at his heart. The moment his hand touched hers, a surge of light filled the chamber. The ship trembled, the walls glowed, and the Empress gasped as her strength flickered alive, her golden eyes flared. Her voice steady for the first time. "Yes, it begins." Daniel's breath caught. He had no idea what was happening inside him, but he knew one thing. His life would never be the same again. Far beyond the ship, across the cold stars, dark fleets stirred. Enemies who had been waiting for the Empress to fall. They turned their ships toward her light. Ready to strike, the bond had begun, but danger was already on its way. The ship hummed with new energy after Daniel touched the Empress's hand. Lights that had been dim for years flickered alive. Symbols along the walls glowed with golden fire. The guards shifted uneasily, some lowering their heads in awe, others watching the human with suspicion. Daniel staggered back, clutching his chest. His skin burned as if lightning had passed through his veins. His breath came fast, his heart racing. What did you do to me?" he gasped. The Empress rose slowly from her throne. For the first time, her movements were graceful, powerful. Her weakness had faded slightly, though her strength was still incomplete. She looked at Daniel with piercing golden eyes. "I did not do this to you. Daniel, it is the bond. The bond has chosen you, and now you must be tested." Daniel's stomach tightened. He glanced at the armored guards, their glowing eyes cold and hard. He didn't feel like a chosen one. He felt like a prisoner walking toward a trap. "Tested? What do you mean?" The Empress stepped down from her throne, her voice echoed through the chamber, soft but commanding. "To awaken my power fully, you must endure the trial of the stars. It will not test your strength of body, but your strength of spirit. If you fail, the bond will break, and I will fade. If you succeed, my power will return, and together we will stand against my enemies." Daniel shook his head. "I'm not a soldier, I'm not some hero. I can't fight aliens, I'm just—" "You are human," the Empress interrupted sharply. "That is enough." The chamber doors opened, and a wave of light spilled in. Daniel was pulled forward by unseen force. His feet scraped against the shining floor until he was inside a circular room. The walls glimmered with shifting symbols, stars spinning across the surface as if the galaxy itself lived within the chamber. The Empress's voice echoed in his mind, though she no longer stood beside him. "This is the trial of the stars. Here you will face not my enemies, but your own doubts, your fears, your hidden truths. Only if you conquer them will the bond hold." The chamber darkened. Daniel's heart pounded. The air grew heavy, and shadows crawled across the walls. Suddenly, he was no longer inside the alien ship. He was back on Earth, standing in the middle of a ruined city. Buildings lay in ashes, the sky burned red. The streets were filled with smoke and silence. A voice whispered, "This is your world's future if you fail." Daniel turned and froze. From the smoke, twisted shapes emerged. Alien soldiers with blades of light and armor black as night. They advanced slowly, their eyes glowing. Their weapons raised, instinct told him to run, but his legs wouldn't move. Fear wrapped around him like chains. His voice cracked. "I can't fight this. I can't." The ground shook, and in front of him appeared a shadowy figure. It looked human, but its face was his own, only darker, colder. The figure spoke in his voice, but filled with scorn. "You are nothing. Daniel, you are weak. You live a small life, you cannot save anyone. Not even yourself." Daniel's chest tightened. The words cut deep because they were true. He had always lived quietly, never chasing greatness, always doubting himself. "Maybe I can't," he whispered. The shadow smirked, stepping closer. "The Empress will die, and it will be your fault. Your people will burn, and it will be your fault because you were too weak to even try." Something inside Daniel snapped. He clenched his fists, his fear boiling into anger. "No, you're wrong," he shouted. "I may not be special, I may not be strong, but I won't let her fall. I won't let Earth fall. Not while I'm still breathing." The shadow lunged at him, but Daniel raised his hands and a burst of light exploded outward. The alien soldiers vanished in flame. The ruined city dissolved, and the shadow shrieked before breaking apart into dust. The chamber glowed bright again. Stars danced around him, filling the room with warmth. Daniel fell to his knees, panting, sweat dripping from his forehead, but in his chest, he felt something different, strength. Not from weapons or power, but from the choice he had made. The Empress appeared before him. Her golden eyes brighter than before, her voice carried pride. "You have passed the first test, human. You faced your fear and shattered it. Now the bond deepens, and my strength awakens." Daniel looked at her, still breathing hard. That was only the first?" Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "Yes, and the trials ahead will only grow harder. But now I know. You may be the one who can save us both." Above the ship, far in the endless dark, enemy fleet stirred. The Empress's faint glow had returned, and they had felt it. Like wolves catching the scent of prey, they began to move, their ships cutting through space like blades. Daniel stood, his legs still trembling. He didn't know what was coming next, but he knew one thing: the fight for survival had only just begun. The chamber doors opened slowly, and Daniel stepped out. His legs were weak, his breath still uneven, but his heart felt strangely steady. The trial of the stars had shaken him to his core, but it had also given him something he had never known before: belief in himself. Waiting outside was the Empress, standing taller than before. Her silver hair glowed faintly, and her golden eyes burned with a renewed light. The bond had given her strength, and Daniel could feel it too, like a thread connecting his heartbeat to hers. The guards dropped to one knee, bowing before her. For years they had watched their Empress fading, losing her power. Now, before their very eyes, she was beginning to rise again, and all because of the strange human they once doubted. Daniel rubbed his hands nervously, looking around. "So, I passed, I guess. What now?" The Empress walked closer, her steps graceful, her presence commanding. Yet when she stood before him, her voice softened. "Now the bond must grow. The first spark has awakened, but it is fragile. To face my enemies, it must become unbreakable." Daniel frowned. "And how do we do that?" Her golden eyes locked onto his. "Through trust, through understanding, through connection. My people do not know these things as your kind does. That is why only a human could awaken me. He felt her words sink deep inside. And for a moment he forgot the alien guards and the strange ship. He saw her not as a queen from the stars, but as someone alone. Someone carrying a burden too great for any one being. The Empress raised her hand slowly, and before Daniel could speak, she placed it gently against his chest. His body tensed as waves of energy surged into him. His vision blurred, and suddenly, he was not in the ship anymore. He was inside her memories. Flashes of worlds filled his mind, planets of fire, cities of crystal, endless armies bowing before her throne. He felt her victories, her power, the pride of ruling an empire that stretched across the stars. But he also felt something else, something hidden beneath the surface. Loneliness. Her people respected her, obeyed her, but they never touched her, never comforted her, never stood beside her as equals. For them she was only power, not a person. The memories shifted again, and Daniel saw the day it all changed. The Empress stood at the center of a battlefield, surrounded by enemies, her power blazing like a star, but then it faded, locked away by some ancient curse. Her body weakened. Her throne fell into silence, and her enemies began circling like vultures. Daniel gasped, stumbling back into reality. His chest ached from the weight of what he had seen. He looked at the Empress, her expression unreadable. You've carried this alone for so long," he whispered. Her golden eyes flickered with something rare, pain. She lowered her gaze, her voice almost fragile. "Yes, and if I fail, my empire dies, and your earth may follow." For the first time, Daniel stepped forward without fear. He placed his hand over hers. "Then you won't carry it alone anymore." The moment their hands touched, the bond deepened, the chamber filled with light, brighter than before. Symbols across the walls flared alive, the entire ship trembling as if it too could feel their connection. The guards raised their heads in awe, whispering to one another. The Empress is returning. Her strength awakens. The Empress closed her eyes, breathing deeply. Her voice rang like thunder and silk at once. "Yes, I feel it. I feel alive again." Daniel felt it too. Her strength pouring into him, and his own emotions, his hope, his determination flowing back into her. It was unlike anything he had ever known, as if two hearts beat together across galaxies. But just as the moment grew stronger, alarms echoed through the ship. The walls pulsed red, and the guards drew their weapons. One of them shouted, "Enemy fleets approaching. They have found us." The Empress's eyes snapped open, golden fire burning within them. She turned to Daniel. "Our bond is young, but we must face what comes." "This will be the true test," Daniel swallowed hard, staring at the glowing doors where danger waited beyond. He had just begun to believe in himself, just begun to understand her. Now he was being thrown into a war unlike anything humanity had ever faced. The Empress lifted her chin, regal and unyielding. "Stay at my side, Daniel, trust me. As I trust you, together we will not fall." Daniel nodded, though fear churned in his stomach. He looked at her and felt the bond between them pulse stronger. Whatever came next, he would face it with her. Far beyond the ship, the black fleets of the Empress's enemies closed in. Their ships cut through space like blades of shadow. Their commanders grinned, believing the Empress was weak. They did not yet know that a human now stood at her side. The storm was coming, and the bond was their only light. The alien ship shuddered as alarms filled every corridor. Crimson lights flashed across the walls, echoing like a heartbeat of danger. The guards ran to their stations, their weapons glowing. Outside, the darkness of space burned with movement. Dozens of enemy warships cutting through the void like blades of shadow. Daniel stumbled as the deck trembled beneath his feet. He looked at the Empress, her golden eyes glowing like fire. "They're here, aren't they?" he whispered. The Empress lifted her chin, her voice calm yet fierce. "Yes, the hunters who have stalked me for years have finally found me. They believe I am still weak, but they do not know the bond has begun." Her words carried strength, but Daniel could see the truth in her face. She was still fragile, her power incomplete. Without him, she might fall, and with her, Earth itself could be next. Through the vast window at the front of the command chamber, Daniel saw the enemy fleet appear, black ships shaped like jagged knives, their engines burning with red fire. Each one was larger than any human craft, armed with weapons that glowed with deadly light. The guards spoke quickly in their own alien tongue, voices filled with urgency. The Empress raised her hand to silence them, then turned to Daniel. "This will be your first battle beside me. Stay close, trust the bond, and you may yet survive. Daniel swallowed hard. I've never fought a battle, I don't even know how. Her eyes softened for a moment. You do not need weapons, Daniel, you are my anchor. My strength, together we will stand. Together we will strike. The ship roared as enemy fire slammed against its shields. Sparks rained from the ceiling. The Empress's guards rushed to the control stations, responding with bursts of glowing energy that shot back across the stars. Daniel gripped the railing, watching beams of light cut through space. Explosions blooming like silent fire. The battle had begun. The Empress moved to the center of the chamber, her silver hair flowing like starlight. She raised her arms and the very air seemed to vibrate. Daniel felt the bond pulse through his chest. His heart racing to match hers, energy surged between them, filling the ship with golden light. The guards gasped as the shields grew stronger, powered by the connection. The Empress's voice thundered through the chamber. Strike back. Show them the Empress of the Stars still breathes. The ship unleashed a wave of power, golden beams slicing into the Black Fleet. One enemy ship exploded in silence, its debris spinning into the void. Cheers echoed among the guards. But Daniel's relief was short-lived. For every ship destroyed, 5 more appeared. Their formation tightened, their weapons glowing brighter. They fired in unison, and the Empress's vessel shook violently. Daniel fell to his knees, clutching his chest as the bond flared painfully. He felt her weakness, the limits of her power. Empress, he gasped, you can't take all of them at once. Her golden eyes burned. I must. There is no retreat if they break me here. All is lost. The enemy fleet moved closer. Surrounding them, their leader appeared on a massive screen. A towering figure with armor of black steel and eyes like burning coals. His voice rumbled across the chamber. So the Empress clings to life. Pathetic, you hide in the shadows waiting for death. But today it ends. Daniel's fist clenched, his fear twisted into anger. He shouted at the screen before he could stop himself. She's not alone anymore. She has me, the alien leader sneered. A human? You dare bring this fragile creature to battle? Then both of you will die together. The transmission ended, and the enemy ships began charging their main weapons. Massive cannons glowing with deadly energy. The guards braced for impact, some whispering prayers, others preparing to fight to the last breath. The Empress turned to Daniel, her face calm but her voice heavy. The bond is still young, but if we push it further, we may unleash more of my strength. It will hurt, it may even kill you, are you willing? Daniel's chest tightened. His body ached from the bond already. He could feel her pain, her fear, her hope, and he knew in that moment he could not turn away. Do it, he said firmly. Whatever it takes. I won't let you fall. The Empress stepped closer, placing both hands on his shoulders. Energy surged between them like fire and lightning. Daniel cried out as visions exploded in his mind. Stars collapsing, empires rising, the Empress standing tall with the power of a goddess. Her strength poured into him and his determination flowed back into her. The ship trembled violently as golden light burst outward. Covering the shields, the enemy cannons fired, red beams of destruction slamming into them. But instead of breaking, the golden shields held, sparkling like sunlight. The guards gasped in disbelief, shouting in triumph. The Empress's voice thundered with new strength. Now, Daniel, together, the bond pulsed, and the ship fired a massive beam of golden energy. It cut through the void, striking 3 enemy ships at once, their hulls shattered, explosions blooming across the battlefield. The Black Fleet staggered, their leader snarling in rage. But even as victory seemed close, Daniel collapsed to his knees. His body trembled, his chest burning. The Empress knelt beside him, her voice sharp with worry. Stay with me, the bond demands much, but you cannot break now. Daniel looked up at her, his vision fading. I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere, he whispered. Outside, the enemy fleet regrouped. Their leader raised his weapon, readying another devastating strike. The battle was far from over, and Daniel, though weakened, realized the truth. This was only the beginning. The battlefield in space burned with light and shadow. The golden glow of the Empress's ship fought against the endless black of the enemy fleet. Debris floated across the void like shattered stars, but still the warships of the enemy pressed forward, countless and merciless inside the command chamber. Daniel clutched his chest, his body trembling. Every surge of the bond pulled at his life. Draining his strength, he gasped for breath, his knees weak. But he refused to fall. The Empress knelt beside him, her silver hair brushing his face as she held him steady. "You cannot endure much more," she whispered. Her golden eyes burning with both fear and resolve. Daniel forced a weak smile. "Then we'll have to finish this fast." The ship shook violently as another blast hit the shield. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Alarms wailed. The guards shouted reports. But the Empress heard only the rhythm of Daniel's heartbeat. She knew the truth. The bond was powerful, but it was tearing him apart. Every moment he gave her strength. He gave a piece of himself. Her eyes hardened. "There is one way to end this." Daniel looked at her through the haze of pain. "Tell me." She hesitated, her voice low. "The final awakening. It will unleash all of my power, enough to shatter their fleet. But the cost is great. The bond must merge fully. Your life force tied to mine completely. If you fall, I fall. If I rise, you rise. Forever bound." Daniel's breath caught. He stared at her, fear and awe in his eyes. "You mean, my life will no longer be mine alone?" The Empress nodded, her expression unshaken. "Yes, and I cannot force this choice. Only you can give it, but know this, Daniel, if we do nothing, both our worlds will burn." The chamber fell silent. The only sound the thunder of battle beyond the walls. Daniel closed his eyes, memories flashing through his mind. His small, ordinary life, his doubts, his fears, and then the voice of the Empress, the bond between them. The trust she had given him when no one else would. He opened his eyes and met her gaze. His voice was steady. "Then we do it. Together." The Empress's golden eyes widened slightly, then softened for the first time. A true smile touched her lips. She rose to her full height, her presence glowing like a rising sun. She extended her hand. "Take my hand, Daniel, and do not let go." Daniel gripped her hand tightly. Their bond flared, light bursting across the chamber. The guards shielded their eyes, whispering in awe. The ship itself trembled as if alive. The Empress closed her eyes, her voice like a song in a storm. "By the bond of heart and spirit, by the fire of stars and flesh, awaken." A blinding surge of energy rushed through Daniel. He cried out, but he did not let go. His veins glowed with golden light, his heart beating in rhythm with hers. He saw visions, galaxies spinning, stars collapsing, armies bowing, and the Empress at the center, radiant and unbreakable. And in those visions he stood beside her. No longer ordinary, no longer weak. The Empress's body glowed brighter. Her silver hair turned into a river of light. Her golden eyes burned like twin suns. The air shook with her power as she rose above the floor, her voice echoing through every corner of the ship. "I am the Empress of the stars. I rise again." Outside, the golden light burst from the ship, spreading across the battlefield like dawn breaking through endless night. The enemy fleet staggered, their weapons failing, their shields cracking. The leader snarled, shouting orders, but it was too late. The Empress raised her hand and the bond pulsed. Daniel felt the fire in his chest, and together they unleashed a storm. Golden beams tore through the black ships, one after another exploding into silent fire. The darkness of space lit with destruction, the hunters screaming in defeat. The enemy leader's ship shook violently as flames consumed its hull. His furious voice echoed one last time across the comms. "This is not the end, Empress. The stars will turn against you." Then his ship shattered into dust. The battlefield fell quiet. The remaining enemy vessels scattered, fleeing into the void, defeated and broken. Inside the chamber, Daniel collapsed to his knees, his body weak, his vision blurred, but the bond held him. The Empress lowered gently beside him, her hand never leaving his. "You did it," he whispered, his voice faint but proud. Her golden eyes glowed with power, yet her voice softened to a whisper only for him. "No, Daniel. We did it together." The guards knelt around them, their voices trembling with awe. "The Empress has returned. The Empress lives." Daniel looked up at her, feeling both pain and peace. He knew the truth now. His life was no longer his own. It belonged to her as much as hers belonged to him. Forever bound, forever one. And though the battle was won, deep inside he felt it. This was not the end. The galaxy had seen her light return, and enemies far greater than these hunters would soon come. But for the first time, Daniel was not afraid. He had faced the storm. He had survived the bond, and he had awakened the Empress of the stars. The battlefield drifted silent in the vast darkness of space. Wreckage floated among the stars, the broken remains of the enemy fleet shining like dying embers. The golden glow of the Empress's ship burned bright, a beacon of survival, of victory and of awakening. Inside the command chamber, Daniel sat weak but alive. His body trembled from the power that had surged through him, yet his eyes were steady. His hand was still joined with the Empress's, the bond between them unbroken, stronger now than ever before. The guards stood in silence, watching with awe and fear. They had always known their Empress was destined for greatness, but what they had witnessed went beyond destiny. She was no longer the ruler they had once followed. She was reborn, blazing with power that could shake the galaxy itself. The Empress slowly lowered herself to the floor beside Daniel. Her glowing hair dimmed slightly, though her golden eyes still burned like suns. She spoke softly, so only he could hear. "You held me when I was broken. You gave me more than strength, you gave me hope, and now, Daniel, your fate is forever tied to mine." Daniel breathed deeply, his chest aching but his heart firm. "I'm just a man," he whispered. "But if my life is yours, then I'll stand with you no matter what comes." For the first time, the Empress allowed herself a moment of silence, her gaze not as a queen to her subject, but as one soul to another. She squeezed his hand gently, her voice low. "Then together, we will face what is coming." The silence of the chamber broke as a guard approached, bowing deeply. "Empress, the enemy fleet is destroyed, but our long-range sensors detect echoes. Others watch the battle. They know you have returned." Her golden eyes narrowed, not with fear, but with certainty. "Let them watch, let them fear. For the Empress of the Stars has awakened, and I am not alone." Her gaze lingered on Daniel, the meaning clear. Across Earth, the world was still in shock. News spread that the alien fleet had fallen, cities that had been filled with fear now filled with light. Crowds gathered under the night sky, staring at the strange golden glow above. They did not yet understand the bond, nor the Empress's power, but one truth spread like wildfire. Humanity was no longer alone. Some celebrated, some trembled. Governments argued whether to prepare armies or to send ambassadors. Scientists scrambled to decode every broadcast from the alien ship. But ordinary people looked at the stars with wonder. Knowing the universe had opened, Daniel, though, was caught between two worlds. He was still human, yet no longer entirely. The bond made him more, tied to powers he barely understood. He could feel the heartbeat of the Empress, even when he closed his eyes. He could sense the pulse of the stars through her spirit. The weight of destiny pressed heavy on him, but he did not break. The Empress rose, standing tall once more, her voice commanding yet filled with warmth. "We return to the throne world," she declared. "The Empire has waited in silence, and now it will hear my voice again. They will know I am alive. They will know I do not stand alone." The guards bowed deeply, their voices united. Long live the Empress. Long live the bond. Daniel stood slowly, his legs weak but his resolve firm. He looked at the stars outside the great window, wondering what awaited them beyond. He knew the hunters were not the only threat. The galaxy was vast, filled with rulers, empires, and predators who would fear the return of the Empress, fear and strike. Yet for the first time Daniel felt ready. He was no soldier when this began. No hero, just an ordinary man pulled into something greater. But now, he was part of her. And she was part of him. The Empress turned toward him, her golden eyes softer now. "Are you afraid, Daniel?" He smiled faintly, exhaustion heavy in his voice. "Of course. But I'd rather face fear with you than face safety without you." She laughed gently, a sound like music, rare and beautiful. In that laugh, the weight of empires and the endless stretch of stars felt lighter, and so, the ship turned, leaving behind the broken field of battle. Its golden light stretched across the void. A new dawn rising not just for an empire, but for humanity too. For Daniel had touched the heart of the Empress, and in doing so, had changed both their fates forever. But even as the light of victory spread, shadows lingered at the edges of the galaxy. Hidden eyes watched. Whispers carried across the void. The Empress had returned, her power unlocked, her bond sealed. And though she and Daniel now stood unbreakable, the universe was not finished testing them, for this was not the end. This was the beginning. The beginning of a story written in the stars, where one human and one empress would shape the fate of galaxies together.